Okay, Nolan, we're going to read a story called Winnie the Pooh. And I'm going to read you a chapter and send it to you so you can listen to it at night. And then I'll read you the next chapter for another night. Winnie the Pooh is a bear. He lives in the forest with a lot of friends. And it's written by A. Milne. So here's Winnie the Pooh with his friend named Christopher Robin. Christopher Robin is a little boy who plays with Winnie the Pooh and all of his friends. Chapter 1, in which we are introduced to Winnie the Pooh and some bees, and the stories begin. Here is Edward Bear coming downstairs now, bump, bump, bump on the back of his head behind Christopher Robin. It is, as far as he knows, the only way of coming downstairs, but sometimes he feels that there really is another way, if only he could stop bumping for a moment and think of it. And then he feels that perhaps there isn't. Anyhow, here he is at the bottom, ready to be introduced to you. When I first heard his name, I said just as you were going to say, but I thought he was a boy. So did I, said Christopher Robin. Then you can't call him Winnie. I don't, but you said his name is Winnie the Pooh. He's Winnie the Pooh. Don't you know what "the" means? So let's turn the page. Yes, now I do, I said quickly. I hope you do too, because it's all that you're going to get. Sometimes Winnie the Pooh likes a game of some sort when he comes downstairs. Sometimes he likes to sit quietly in front of the fire and listen to a story. This evening, well, what about a story, said Christopher Robin. What about a story, I said. Could you very sweetly tell Winnie the Pooh a story? I suppose I could. What sort of stories does he like? He likes stories about himself, because he's that sort of bear. Nolan, do you like stories about yourself? Oh, I see. So could you very sweetly tell a story? I'll try. So I tried. Once upon a time, a very long time ago now, like last Friday, Winnie the Pooh lived in a forest all by himself. One day when he was out walking, he came to an open place in the middle of the forest. In the middle of this place was a large oak tree. And from the top of the tree there came a loud buzzing noise. Winnie the Pooh sat down at the foot of the tree, put his head between his paws, and began to think. Nolan, what do you think the buzzing noise is? Well, first of all, he said to himself, that buzzing noise means something. You don't get a buzzing noise like that, just buzzing and buzzing, without it meaning something. If there's a buzzing noise, somebody's making that noise. And the only reason for making a buzzing noise that I know of is because you are a bee. Then he thought another long time and said, and the only reason for being a bee that I know of is making honey. Then he got up and said, the only reason for making honey is so I can eat it. So he began to climb the tree. He climbed and he climbed and he climbed, and as he climbed, he sang a little song to himself. It went like this. Isn't it funny how a bear likes honey? Buzz, 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 I wonder why he does. Then he climbed a little bit further, and then just a little further, and by that time he thought of another song. It's a very funny thought that if bears were bees, they'd build their nests at the bottom of trees. And that being so, if the bees were bears, we shouldn't have to climb up all these stairs. He was getting rather tired by this time. So that is why he sang a complaining song. He was nearly there now, up to the bees. And if he just stood on that one branch, crack! Uh-oh, what happened? "Oh, help," said Pooh as he dropped 10 feet on the branch below him. "If only I hadn't," he said as he bounced 20 feet to the next branch. "You see, what I meant to do," he explained as he kept crashing down. "What I meant to do, of course, it was rather—" He slithered very quickly through the next 6 branches. "It all comes, I suppose, it all comes of liking honey so much. Oh, help." "Nolan, is there anything that you like as much as Pooh likes honey?" He crawled out of the bush, brushed the prickles from his nose, and began to think again. And the first person he thought of was Christopher Robin. "Was that me?" said Christopher Robin, who's listening to the story. "That was you." So Winnie the Pooh went around to his friend Christopher Robin, who lived behind a green door in another part of the forest. "Good morning, Christopher Robin," he said. "Good morning, Winnie the Pooh," said you. That's Christopher Robin said good morning to Pooh. "I wonder if you've got such a thing as a balloon about you." "A balloon?" "Yes, I just said to myself coming along, I wonder if Christopher Robin has such a thing as a balloon about him. I just said it to myself, thinking of balloons and wondering." "Well, what do you want a balloon for?" you said. Winnie the Pooh looked around to see that nobody was listening. He put his paw to his mouth and said in a whisper, "Honey." "But you don't get honey with balloons," said Christopher Robin. "I do," said Pooh. "Well, it just happened that you, Christopher Robin, had been to a party the day before at the house of your friend Piglet, and we're going to hear more about Piglet later. And you had balloons at the party. You had had a big green balloon, and one of Rabbit's relations had had a big blue one and had left it behind, being really too young to go to a party at all. So you brought the green one and the blue one home with you. Which one would you like?" you asked Pooh. He put his head between his paws and thought very carefully. "It's like this," he said. "When you go after honey with a balloon, the great thing is not to let the bees know you're coming. Now, if you have a green balloon, they might think you were just part of the tree, and they might not notice you. But if you have a blue balloon, they might think that you're part of what? The sky, and not notice you. And the question is, which is best? Wouldn't they notice you underneath the balloon?" "Maybe or maybe not," said Winnie the Pooh. "You never can tell with bees." He thought for a moment and said, "I shall try to look like a small black cloud. That will trick them." "Then you better have the blue balloon," you said, and so it was decided. Well, you both went out with the blue balloon. And you took your gun with you, a gun, just in case, as you always did. And Winnie the Pooh went to a very muddy place that he knew of, and he rolled and rolled until he was black all over. And then when the balloon was blown up big as big, and you and Pooh were both holding onto the string, you let go suddenly, and Pooh Bear floated gracefully up into the sky and stayed there, level with the top of the tree and about 20 feet away from the tree. "Hooray!" you shouted. "Isn't that fine?" shouted Winnie the Pooh. "What do I look like?" "You look like a bear holding on to a balloon," you said. "Not like a small black cloud in a blue sky?" Pooh asked. "Not very much." "Well, perhaps from up here it looks different. As I say, you never can tell with bees." Well, there was no wind to blow him nearer to the tree, so there he stayed. He could see the honey. He could smell the honey, but he couldn't quite reach the honey. And after a little while, he called down to you. "Christopher Robin," he said in a loud whisper. "Hello. I think the bees suspect something." "What sort of thing?" "I don't know, but something tells me that they're suspicious. Perhaps they think that you're after their honey. It might be that. You never can tell with bees." There was another silence, and then Winnie the Pooh called down to you again. "Christopher Robin." "Yes." "Do you have an umbrella in your house?" "I think so." I wonder what he's going to do." "I wish you would bring it out here and walk up and down with it and look up at me every now and then and say, 'Tut, tut, it looks like it might rain.' I think if you did that, it would help the bees think that I was a dark cloud up in the sky." Well, you laughed to yourself. Silly old bear, but you didn't say that out loud because you were so fond of Winnie the Pooh, and you went home for your umbrella. "Okay, there you are," called down Winnie the Pooh as soon as you got back to the tree. "I was beginning to get anxious. I discovered that the bees are definitely suspicious." Nolan, do you know what suspicious means? It means that you think you know something, like a secret. "Should I put my umbrella up?" you said. "Yes, but wait just a minute. We have to be practical. The important bee to trick is the queen bee. Can you see which is the queen bee from down there?" "Nope." "Well, that's a pity. Now, if you walk up and down with your umbrella saying, 'Tut, tut, it looks like rain,' I shall do what I can by singing a little cloud song, like a cloud might sing. Go!" So while you walked up and down and wondered if it would rain, Winnie the Pooh sang this song. "How sweet to be a cloud floating in the blue. Every little cloud always sings aloud. How sweet to be a cloud floating in the blue. It makes him very proud to be a little cloud." The bees were still buzzing as suspiciously as ever. Some of them indeed left their nest and flew all around the cloud as he began to sing the second verse of this song. And one bee sat down on the nose of the cloud, which was really Winnie the Pooh, and then got up again. "Christopher Owl! Robin!" called out the cloud, which is really Winnie the Pooh. "Yes? I have just been thinking I've come to a very important decision. These are the wrong kind of bees." "Are they?" "Quite the wrong sort, so I should think they would make the wrong sort of honey, shouldn't you?" "Would they?" "Yes, so I think I shall come down." "How?" asked you. Well, guess what, Nolan? Winnie the Pooh hadn't thought about this at all. If he let go of the string, he would fall, bump, and he didn't like the idea of that. So he thought for a long time, and then he said, "Christopher Robin, shoot the balloon with your gun." "Have you got your gun?" "Of course I have," you said, "but if I do that, it will break and spoil the balloon," you said. "But if you don't," said Pooh, "I shall have to let go, and that would spoil me." Well, when you put it like this, you saw how it was, and you aimed very carefully at the balloon and fired your cork gun. "Ow!" said Pooh. "Did I miss?" you asked. "You didn't exactly miss," said Pooh, "but you missed the balloon." "I'm so sorry," you said. I guess he shot Winnie the Pooh and hurt him a little bit. "I'm so sorry," you said, and you fired again, and this time you hit the balloon, and the air came slowly out, and Winnie the Pooh floated down to the ground. But his arms were so stiff from holding on to the string of the balloon all that time that they stayed up straight in the air for more than a week, and whenever a fly came and settled on his nose, he had to blow it off because he couldn't scratch his face with his arms and his hands. And I think, but I'm not sure, that that's why he was always called Pooh. That's like the sound he made when he blew off the fly. Pooh. "Is that the end of the story?" asked Christopher Robin. "That's the end of the first one. There are others. About Pooh and me?" "Yes, and Piglet and Rabbit and all of you. Don't you remember?" I do remember that, but then when I try to remember, I forget. So there's that day when Pooh and Piglet tried to catch the heffalump. They didn't catch it, did they? No, Pooh couldn't because he doesn't have a brain. Did I catch it? Asked Christopher Robin. Well, you'll find out in the story. Christopher Robin nodded. I do remember, he said, only Pooh doesn't remember very well, so that's why he likes having it told to him again, because then it's a real story and not just remembering. That's how I feel, said Christopher Robin. He gave a deep sigh, picked his bear up by the leg, walked off to the door, trailing Pooh behind him, and at the door he turned and said, Are you coming to see me take a bath? I might, I said. I didn't hurt him when I shot him, did I? Not a bit. He nodded and went out, and in a moment I heard Winnie the Pooh bump, 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 going up the stairs behind him. So that is the end of chapter 1, the first story. And next time I'll read chapter 2, in which Pooh goes visiting and gets into a tight place.